My name's Dunfield, and I'm the pastor of the St. Andrew's Baptist Church, and I'd like to welcome you to Words of Encouragement. My guest tonight is Amy Liebscher, and this is part 2 of a 2-part series that Amy and I are doing, revolving around her conversion experience and moving to St. Andrew's and a whole lot of issues. And so last week we kind of got into some general ideas about how you ended up here and about how you became a Christian. And tonight I'd like to kind of zero down on a few more aspects of that.
Sure.
And one of the things that I'm really curious about is, was Christianity, when you began to search for truth, was Christianity one of the first things you explored or one of the last things you explored?
One of the last things, like I told you last time, it was probably the last thing that I would want to consider if I was out picking a religion because of my background.
Right.
And that if I were to pick and choose, I was leaning more towards New Age and Buddhism and those type of religions. But the way that God spoke to me, I wasn't really interested in following a religion. I was just interested in following God.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you were just looking for what you considered truth for your life.
Yes. And when He spoke the truth into my heart and I trusted Him, I just wanted to follow His word, and I wasn't so concerned with denominations or religions or anything.
Any of
just
those
following
kinds of
the.
One of the things that I find fascinating about your story is that a lot of people I meet, and I've met a lot of people who have become Christians over the year, most of those people have had somebody who has been a major influence in their life to encourage them to become a Christian. For me, I would say my mother had an amazing influence on me. She prayed for me for years, and though I didn't become a Christian until I was an adult and married and had children, my mother never stopped. So I had this person kind of working on my behalf. But yours was quite a different story.
Yeah.
This is an encounter between you and God.
Yeah, it was quite the opposite. As I say, my family was pretty much atheistic. I would say maybe more agnostic. I was the most against. I was the most hardened, and I was the most, I don't want to hear anything about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know it was quite a surprise.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yours was, what was it that made your heart kind of hardened against Christianity
I had a
growing up?
very, very broken background.
Okay.
And so I grew up feeling a lot of anxiety and a lot of bad things going on in the home and over the years I started to rely on myself. And then I became angry pretty much from my teenage years and into most of my 20s. I was very, very angry at the world and
So did you more think that God wasn't there, or God didn't care, or you just never thought about it?
I didn't think about it much in the beginning because it was just kind of survival.
Yeah.
And then later on, as I got more angry, as I got older, I thought there couldn't possibly be a God, or else I, wouldn't go through these things that I was going through.
That's an aspect that a lot of people go through. They go, okay, life's going along, then I have a hard time.
Yeah.
I have these issues, and where is God?
Yeah.
But for you, it was, well, you didn't think about God, and then when those things did come along, you kind of thought maybe God is part of the problem, not the solution.
Right. And when I look back now, though, I think probably He was with me all along. I just didn't realize,
Right.
There was lots of situations that I kind of narrowly escaped from that when I look back on it, He probably always did have His hand on me.
Right on.
Yeah.
There was a time in your life when God spoke into your life in I wouldn't say an audible way, but an almost audible way that you couldn't have missed the voice of God.
Yeah, no, I had absolutely no other way to explain it. And as I said last time, I kept going back and thinking, well, maybe I dreamt it up, or maybe I'm just imagining it, or maybe it was this, that, or the other. And there was simply no other explanation. And I just couldn't get away from the fact that that really was God. It was too strong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your journey, once you encountered God, I take it you bought a Bible? You got a
I
Bible?
did, yeah.
You began to read?
Yeah.
Tell me about that experience. What did you, like, was it, it must have been totally alien to you, totally
yeah.
different. I know when I became a Christian, I bought my first Bible and I didn't know Genesis from Revelation. I didn't have a clue what any of those things meant. And I had some background, but you not so much. So as a result, it must have been quite an encounter.
It's been a lot of learning, but I've had help. I've
Yeah.
been led through it because I didn't know which translation to read. I was confused about all of that. And fortunately, there's lots of tools online nowadays that you can read different translations side to side.
That's
And I
interesting.
looked into that, and I looked into the word origins and
Wow,
and
so
that
you
type
really
of
began
thing.
to put some energy
Yeah.
into learning about what this was.
Oh, I wanted to understand as much as I possibly could. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you didn't just say, oh, wow, I think God spoke into my life. I'll get a Bible, read through it, and like, wow, that's cool. You actually studied into
Yeah.
what it was.
I wanted to know, I wanted to learn, and I didn't understand right away. It was very confusing.
Right.
Reading the Old Testament, I was very confused about what the Sabbath day was and if I was supposed to be celebrating festivals of trumpets and all sorts of things like that. I
Yeah.
was very confused at the beginning, but whenever I got to something, I thought, okay, I'm just going to put that aside for now. I'll make a little note of it. And, even when I got to things that sort of upset me
Yeah.
in the beginning, I just trusted.
Right
I
on.
trusted God, so I thought, okay, I'll figure this out later, but I'm going to trust.
That's an amazing aspect.
Yeah.
Because Amy, to come to a place of trust sometimes takes people years
Yeah.
to actually, from the time they begin their journey towards God, to accepting God, they go through all kinds of things and then they eventually say, okay, now I believe.
Yeah.
With you come from an atheistic background. You have an encounter with God where God speaks into your life. You pick up the Bible, you begin to read it, and faith begins to take place within your life.
Yeah.
That's quite fascinating.
That's how strong that the experience was, because, for me particularly, it was also very, very hard to trust anybody.
Right.
I really only trusted myself, but that, even further proves for me that what happened was truly God's Spirit coming into my heart, because
Absolutely.
it's a powerful transformation.
Oh, my goodness. Getting through all those father passages and stuff
Yeah.
must have been very difficult. Seeing God portrayed in a male aspect and
Yeah.
everything, considering some of the things that you have had to deal with in your life. Did it make any sense to you from the beginning?
Some-
What you were reading?
Some did and some didn't. I found the Gospels were fairly easy to read. Gospel of John particularly, made a lot of sense. Other things I had a harder time with.
It must have given you encouragement and hope.
No, yes, it did. Yeah. Now, everything has come so full circle
Right.
in such a short amount of time. Now I find it very comforting to have the father figure, whereas I really balked at
first,
that for
at
a long
first.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's really wonderful.
Yeah.
So you read in the Old Testament, you read in the New Testament, and the Bible began to become alive. You began to follow it, and you began to find teachings in the Bible.
Yeah.
That just is so interesting to me. You began to read. You discovered baptism.
Yeah.
And what did you think about that when you first, here are people getting baptized? And how did that interrelate with your whole life experience? I mean, did you understand what it meant, or did you just see it as something that was there, or how did that work out in your life?
I was a little bit confused at first because, as I say too, the churches were closed. There was nobody to talk to about anything. I did try to email a few of them and didn't receive any word back. So
Right.
I was a little bit confused about baptism. Is it necessary? Are we supposed to be immersed? Are we supposed to be sprinkled? I didn't understand that. But that, as well as anything else I was confused about, it just seemed like I would always get led to a teaching online, maybe
Right.
a video that would help explain it for
Yeah.
me, or a particular passage. And that's sort of been the pattern in the
Yeah.
last 7 months, is that I would zero in
Yeah.
on just the right message at just the right time. And so then
I've still got to, and I'm going to, is I'm going to post your baptism. Amy had one of the craziest baptisms I've ever heard in my life in Vancouver, and in the midst of a protest. And I'm going to put up, if you go to St. Andrew's Baptist Church, all one word, on Facebook, I hope in the next day or two I'll get Amy's baptism up, because there's not many of us that get baptized in the midst of a protest with an RCMP guard around you, making sure everything goes well, or the police around you. And so that was quite a unique experience.
it's pretty memorable. It's quite a blessing, actually. I thought I was quite honored to do it in
Yeah.
that way. I wouldn't have it any other way, actually. Yeah.
So you were telling me you got out of the water and you went around and had to go through buildings and come back to get changed and get on the bus to go
Yeah,
home.
we needed a police escort to get down to the water, as well as while we were being baptized in the water, as well as to get out of the neighborhood. So I
Yeah.
had to sneak off down the alley to come back around and sneak in and change clothes. Wet. Yeah.
Quite different than how most of us are used to
Yeah.
baptisms, in either a baptismal tank or in the ocean.
That
out
part
here.
wasn't in the Bible.
No,
but-
that didn't find that in the Bible. That wasn't quite there. Ah, dear. What was the main reference point that you found in your whole journey, and in the Bible, that you would say had the biggest impact on you as an individual?
Well, I think it was the passage that was really speaking to me right before I did the testimony, was from Isaiah, that the Lord binds up the brokenhearted. And that's what was really for me at the heart of why I was so hardened and why I didn't want to have anything to do with it. And the problems that I had was that I was pretending to be tough.
Yeah, when your heart had been broken.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, you found yourself coming to a passage, a place in the Bible where you could just say, wow,
Yeah.
that brings me peace.
Yeah, for sure. I've had a lot of therapy in that, and come to a place where I've been pretty good. But that's healed
Not a
my
seal.
heart in a way that I didn't think was even possible, that I didn't even realize needed to be done.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank Amy for being with us again tonight. She gave her testimony in our church last week, and I don't think there was a dry eye in the place. And I've heard a lot of testimonies in my life, and it was one of the most powerful testimonies I think I'd ever heard. And it just was so moving. And so I just want to thank you for watching. And once again, my guest tonight has been Amy Liebscher, and my name is Lad Dunfield, and we want to thank you for watching Words of Encouragement, and see you next week. Bye now.